Welcome to Bill and Rob's An Excellent Adventure. I'm Bill Tilley.
And I'm Rob Schulte. Bill, it's an incredible day. It's an incredible episode because we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce this guest?
I would indeed. This is the founder and co-host of a very special podcast called The Greatest Generation and Greatest Trek. He's your friend. He's my friend. He's your friend, even if you don't know he's your friend. He is the one and only Adam Pranica. Adam, it is marvelous to see you in our humble little podcast. Thank you for joining us.
I love having time off from my day job so I can come and do fun things like this. This is great.
Yeah. Well, as we know, I don't
love your theme song, by the way. Like it's a song so good you don't need verses. It's all chorus all the time.
All chorus all the time, and a whole hell of a lot of cowbell, which was a note made by FODs. We all know this, and that was the thing. Here's the track. Wait, I'm sending you an updated track that has more cowbell. And I love that. Yeah,
I've lived my entire life waiting and going, I'll never get my own theme music. And lo and behold, it has finally happened.
It sounds like the sort of thing that Doug Masters would slide into his thigh top Walkman player and play while doing unnecessary barrel rolls.
Yep.
I have thoughts on the thigh top. We will get there. But Bill, why don't you explain what we're watching and why?
Well, we are watching this because it's cool and it's got planes and blowing up stuff. And we thought us three would have a good time with it. We are looking at 1986's Iron Eagle, what some say is the Top Gun of the F-14 or the F-16 in the Air Force. But the Air Force will probably have something to say about that. But we'll get into that later.
Yes. I had never seen Iron Eagle, much like most of the movies Bill inflicts upon me. But Adam, had you seen Iron Eagle? It feels like an Adam movie.
Yeah, you'd be right about that. I grew up watching this film quite a bit, and I think the reason why I saw this more than its Top Gun counterpart is because there is absolutely no sex in it. Like it is completely sexless as a fighter jock movie. Which distinguished it from Top Gun in a very serious way in my household. Like that, the blue scene from Top Gun meant that I really couldn't watch it at home until I probably came back for summer in college. Like,
yeah,
it was. I mean, that was its only fault, really.
Yeah. It was one of those movies where you kind of have to have one eye down the hall and one eye back on the scene to see if anybody's coming to make sure you're not busted.
Yeah, I mean, a parent could watch this film only once and be assured, like, you got nothing to worry about here.
Yeah.
It's not even really about war. So nothing to worry about whatsoever. I also, quick question before we dive into this. The lead actor, I'm blanking on his name right now, Doug.
Jason Gedrick.
Do we know how old he was when this movie was filmed?
He was a teenager when I did see some promo stuff for him. So I think he was 18 or 19 at the time. It was like his second movie. It was.
And how old was Tim Thomerson?
Ageless. Tim Thomerson was ageless. This is like brown hair Tim Thomerson, which to my mind is one of the few references.
Forced brown hair Tim Thomerson, I think.
Yeah. It feels like you as specific as the casting gets in this film, you kind of build it around Tim Thomerson, don't you? You need him to evoke the feelings of like needing to save him. Absent that, I'm not sure you have a film.
No, that's why he gets the and credit. Whenever you see the and credit, you know, all right, we're going to get somewhere between 8 and 12 minutes of this person, and it's going to be very important.
I'm not besmirching the Louis Gossett Jr. presence in this film whatsoever by saying that, but I'm saying that, like, Tim Thomerson, man, like, if he doesn't play a dad that you love, you do not give a shit at all.
Not at all. I mean, recently, well, within the last 12 months, Bill and I watched Doll Man, and it straddles the line there. It straddles the, like, do I care about Tim Thomerson? But then once he starts,
Are you doing a Tim Thomerson Film Festival? What's going on here?
he's trying. Bill is trying really hard, and I appreciate it. I respect the hustle.
Yeah, don't think I can't sneak that in where I want to. One day we'll do a dedicated run at it, but for this moment, it's Tim
Could you
Thomerson.
program an entire weekend of Tim Thomerson films? Does he have that kind of oeuvre?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a list in a spreadsheet that says nothing at the top of it but Tim Thomerson on my computer.
I didn't look. He's still alive, right? He's got to be.
Yeah,
I think
see.
so.
I'm digging into the IMDb.
Guys
Yeah,
like Tim
it's
never
always a
die.
relief when you see just a born date on IMDb.
Mhm.
Yeah, he is 80 years young.
Yep,
Thomerson.
gives me hope for Transfer 7.
Oh lordy.
Let's fix the crime that was 6.
Some of us don't think anything's wrong with any of those movies, Bill. Surprised you didn't know that. But
whoa.
Getting into Iron Eagle, would you like to read the back of the VHS box, Bill?
I would indeed. Yep, this is where we give the audience what we're talking about. So, back of the VHS, not the back of my Spanish Blu-ray, which was the only way I could get this on Blu-ray.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A 480p Blu-ray. I didn't know they made those.
Yeah, 240. Bite your tongue. All right. A captive father, a heroic son, a daring rescue mission. High-flying, rapid-fire adventure in the tradition of Top Gun, starring Louis Gossett Jr. and Jason Gedrick. I'm going to skip the extra credits if we're on the clock.
Okay.
Air Force pilot Colonel Ted Masters, Tim Thomerson, is shot down over a hostile Middle Eastern country and taken prisoner. The U.S. government is powerless to negotiate his release. With time quickly running out, Masters' teenage son, Doug, takes bold action. He enlists the aid of a tough-as-nails reserve officer, and they devise a daring military rescue operation to storm the skies, exact vengeance on the evil captors, and free Doug's father. Powered by dynamite aerial dogfight sequences, our searing rock soundtrack, and thrilling edge-of-your-seat action, Iron Eagle has something for everyone.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Searing rock and roll. I love that.
Yeah,
it's got something for everyone.
Yeah,
it does, which I wish I'd been able to do that trailer, because if you go on YouTube and watch the original one, the guy that does it is not movie trailer guy. It is more like, visit our accounting service and we'll make sure that your account is valid and all balanced. No tax evasion here.
You've got a good trailer voice, Phil. I like it when you go down and dive for it.
It's dreams. This lets me live out some dreams. I like it.
Bill, you could redo trailers.
2-pack a day?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Carton a day? Were you ever a smoker?
No, but I've got chronic secondhand, as I've got these chops in the back of a 77 Ford LTD with my dad blowing smoke with the windows rolled up. So I come by it naturally.
There is no memory of yours that comes without a model year and brand of car. I love it.
It helps to give everybody a little frame of reference.
Yeah.
If I had my soundboard set up right now, we would be hitting that's a strong smoke.
Yeah, it's just a button titled Brenda Vaccaro.
Yeah.
I wonder what that guy who eats MREs is doing these days.
Rob, I'm wearing this just for you.
Mine got ripped in my move to the desert. I'm so.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wow.
Terrible.
Yeah. Love my Erica shirt.
Erica
saves.
I was thinking about the time we took that Uber, and we can. Yeah, and they got yelled at.
I think of this story every time I put on this shirt. Please continue.
Yeah. Because I was listening to the second season of Blowback podcast, which is about the Cuban crisis and everything there, and just being reprimanded by a guy who thought I had Che Guevara on my phone and not and like starting down the path of like, well, actually, you're right. I'm sorry. I'll change it now.
Would it make it better if I said it was Erica?
Yeah, would it make it better if it's a joke to niche listeners of a podcast?
Oh man, I wish I'd been there, because you'd clearly crossed the event horizon of pulling out of that nosedive.
That's why I always got to sit front seat. Anyway,
I would my punchline to that story, Rob, was a mirror image of yours, which was, that's why I don't sit in the front seat.
Exactly. That's what you do as a producer of podcasts, folks. You sit in the front seat and you get to talk to the driver. That's all it is. If they're not watching sports on their phone while driving you places.
Yeah. In the Uxbridge Shimoda circle, Adam is Rambo because he is the survivalist in social situations.
Absolutely.
And he gets to see when they drew first blood. Well, Bill, we have to talk about Iron Eagle. Not have to, we get to. And I think a big part of this is talking about some facts we might have like heard through the grapevine on the playground, some stuff that stuck with us. They don't have to be, annotated and have multi-sources, but a lot of times it's stuff we Googled on the internet. Now, Adam, you don't have to have anything locked and loaded. If you do, that's fine. But Bill and I have some here. Okay, great. So we can discuss. But Bill, what do you call this segment?
We always give everyone a fun little name for the movie we're watching. So I called the facts segment, I got intelligence, tons of it.
Bill, take it away.
Speaking of the guy that uttered that, Jason Gedrick, that's his line. I found an interview with him from an old Bobby Wingart interview, and he was talking about the movie, and he said, because this is an action movie, and they get looked at one way or another depending on how they're stereotyped. But he said he thinks it's good to have movies like this, and I do too. And he said it in a way that I really liked. He said, if you're just creating situations that look like regular life, i.e. that's not realistic, that's not what happens with there, then all you're doing is showing regular life. And what is the point of doing that? We live it. That's what movies are for. And when we do them in these wild, crazy ways, they're entertaining, but they're usually identifying themes, and you can put yourself in the place of some people in there. So I really like that when you see actors who have run the gamut of whatever kind of movies they're going to admit. I like that when they look back on their career, you get the ones that's like, oh my God, that crappy movie that I did, 15 years ago. And then go, no, it is what it was. It was fun. And, you get something out of it. The kid loves his dad. You do get the patriotic rah-rah of the time, but it's really nice that he looked at this movie and went, yeah, man, it was I had a blast doing it. So I hope somebody sees it and feels some of the stuff I felt. So it was nice to hear.
Do you think that feeling evolved over time? Like your proximity to a film like this, if you're Jason Gedrick, probably and if you look at his career, this did not launch him into stardom in a way. And I wonder coming out of, and he wouldn't even be in the sequels. I wonder if you start out having difficult feelings for a movie like this, that sort of soften as you get older.
It'd be interesting. I mean, you'd actually have to pin them down, which sometimes you can't do. I mean, I'll say it
at EagleCon.
Yeah, at
the
EagleCon.
Convention of Iron Eagle fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
everybody gets a patch.
Because in the second one, he does get Alien 3'd pretty quick, and they bring back the character, but not him. In a retcon in 4, I saw. Hey, these are facts, but not what I wrote down. But I will say, to that point, I recently got a 4K UHD disc of Tammy and the T-Rex from Vinegar Syndrome, which has I'm a disc guy now, Adam. I'm a 4K disc guy, and I'm loving the collection I'm getting. And there's an interview with Denise Richards from 2015 about Tammy and the T-Rex. No, actually, I think they did it in 2024 now that I think about it. And same sort of thing. This is one of my first movies. It's a girl in love with her dead boyfriend whose brain is in a dinosaur. There's not much you get out of the movie, but I love doing it. And I love that people love it. And I think that's the same thing for a movie like Iron Eagle.
For sure.
I also just got Wild Things on 4K. So that'll be for an upcoming episode.
Only Rob Schulte can text me a picture where my response is that a 4K of Tammy and the T-Rex hiding behind the other 3 discs that you've got laid up there?
Wild Things really corresponded to the full bloom of so many young male adolescents. I was one of them.
Oh,
what a picture.
Yeah. I love a good crime drama. Anyway, I'm doing a double feature of that and Bound. Anyway, my fact for this will be that according
Rob's
to
is going to get 20 minutes to the first one, and he's just going to have to sit in it.
Uh-huh. That explains a lot of his message where it's like, got to finish this tomorrow. Now
according to the DVD liner notes of Iron Eagle, the U.S. Air Force was going to consult on this film until they realized that it was a major part of the film was the kids breaking and entering to the Air Force base and stealing secret codes and maps and such. And they're like, well, that's no good. And then, of course, the theft of the fighter jets in general. And like, well, that's kind of against the rules as well. I don't think we can back this. So we'll use Israeli jets to film this movie. You know, I don't always side with the military industrial complex, but I would say probably a smart move to not glorify children stealing secret codes.
Yeah, you really can't blame them. But in the 80s, if you had an organization, i.e. military or police, your movie only came in two speeds. They're either killing and kicking ass with everything in sight, or they're just the most inept bunch of buffoons to ever walk the planet. And everybody around them must get by them to get work done. I mean, it was just, that's how you roll.
I mean, the scene when they're throwing firecrackers in a barrel to sneak by, it's like, I think this is a bigger incident if these people feel like they're getting shot at.
Nobody wonders why the 2-star is about 5.5 feet tall and weighs about $1.05. Yeah, sure. No problem.
It really defangs the whole taking of the F-16 later too, right? Because like the kids have their run of this base in such a way, like throughout the film, that I think it kind of takes the danger out of finally taking off in an F-16 that you fully armed, you know, for this secret mission. Like, I think if you're never on the base and it's always kind of spooky and its defenses are always up, it would create a situation where the achievement of breaking in by all the kids would be seen as smarter, and they would make the kids look smarter, certainly, but also like it would give that moment of takeoff like so much more energy in a fuck yeah, we did it, I cannot believe it. Like it was kind of not surprising when they finally took the jets, you know what I mean?
At no point did I ever think they weren't going to get away with it. And that's kind of the problem.
And the lack of involvement from Chappy in that deal. Like if they'd scaled all that back and Doug had just been like, hey, I need you guys to like steal a key or, you know, try to do a thing. And you don't really know that it's going to happen. Because when they're on the flight line and they're like, your orders aren't right. And they're like, oh shit. Like,
it definitely felt like Chappy the whole time was like, prove it the entire time. Like I'm not doing anything that can get me in trouble. Like you kids are going to do all of it. And up until the point when it comes time to take off, that's when like the rubber meets the road of my involvement in this plan. Like I'm really glad that Chappy didn't do much up until then, because I had real questions about him and what his deal was. And maybe I did throughout. Like, why participate if you're him? Did you ever get that there was a reason? He still is like in the reserves. He's still a respected person in that community.
The movie doubles back on itself because when Doug first meets him, he's like, do you know he's like, I don't really know your dad. And then he has a story about meeting his dad. So I think they forgot. But, you know, if he just did the whole, you know, I don't like to see good men killed bit. I mean, that's thin, but it would have been something. But yeah, you're right, Adam. At any point, he could have walked those kids to the flight line and they're like, we're getting away with it. And, you know, General, I've caught these tramps trying to just here. I've been with them for 2 days and then just turned them all in.
Yeah. I mean, Louis Gossett is such a great actor, and they show off some of his gears in this movie, but I kind of wish they stayed in that gear where he was really taking taking Doug to task on the flight line. Like that moment when he really gets in his face about like, I'm not going to let some fucking kid talk to me this way. I've been flying sorties for as long as you've been born, etc. Like, I kind of wish we had the consistency of that Chappy throughout. Instead, he's like this let me give you a tour of like Black Air Force Base culture and restaurants and stuff. And like, let me let you sleep in my trailer. And like, I guess I didn't understand where his kindness was coming from or how he felt obligated to this in the way that you're talking about, Bill, which is like, did you know Colonel Ted or didn't you?
Well, and it's the thing that's come up a few times lately, especially when we were talking to Graham on Pumpkin Spice. Like, it happens because the script needs it to happen rather than it actually having motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just that reversal of he's the one with all the knowledge. Chappie's the pilot. He's got it all. You know, but Doug needs Chappie instead of the other way around, which another movie would have done it that way. So, and he's not his father. He's got a father. So he's not really he doesn't start as a father figure. He's literally there for skills, and he's a soldier and he's a good man and he'll do it. So it's so strange, especially when like he gives the kids the big clap on the back and they take a class picture for some reason. And he's like, you know, best group of planners I ever had. And it's like, really?
We've got to make as much evidence in this scene as possible to make sure that we all go to federal prison.
100%.
Well, what about you, Adam? Did you have any intelligence for this film?
Yeah, I was curious about what the deal was with the director of this film, Sidney Furie. And he went on to direct a couple of the sequels to this franchise. But I was curious about like how he got his start, like where he fits into the hierarchy of Hollywood directors. And I was shocked to hear that the producer of The Godfather wanted him to direct The Godfather. And it was only when it was revealed that that Sidney Furie wasn't Italian enough that the offer was the offer was taken back. So Francis Ford Coppola, very Italian, more Italian than Sidney Furie, and that is why Sidney Furie did not get to direct The Godfather. I thought that was a spectacular bit of trivia.
Wow,
that makes
love that.
him more Italian than Dino De Laurentiis, because Laurentiis would have just been like, "I like your face. You do my movie."
And Sidney Furie, still alive, 92 years old, and was directing films as recently as 2018.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Could you imagine?
We could have got Iron Eagle 5. Damn it.
I mean, is this being released right now, like concurrently with this recording? Because I don't want to say he's alive and then...
No. You will be... This is coming out in about a month and a half, so don't worry. Listeners, understand that stuff can happen.
Yeah, stuff does happen to the very old.
Yes. And you know what? Luckily, none of us will ever get old. So that's why we're living life. Bill, would you be okay moving on to the likes segment?
Absolutely.
All right.
So we're going to go over some stuff that we really liked about this movie. And I have titled the like section, "It's Super Sonic."
A quintessential 1986 phrase. I love it. Do you mind if I go first on this one?
Do not. Take the lead, Iron Eagle.
Well, I got a couple and they just go right together. And there's, whether I love a film Bill subjects me to, or I am on the fence, or I outright hate it, which has never happened. We'll just put that out there. It's usually between the years of 1982 and 1986. And something I always find that I love, and I've said it many times before, these movies have texture. Like physically, because there's still dirt on the film that we're watching, and because there's a depth that doesn't feel like mush. And I love that in films of this time frame. We start losing it around 1993. But it's like just clean enough. Like the technology is in a sweet spot that it just feels like I can live in it. And I love that feeling. And what goes along with like these like war games type Iron Eagle sort of film is this like theme of kids can do anything. And it's just before the like, you know, I'm 40, millennial, mid-millennial, elder millennial sort of like, here, let me just sell you your childhood and tell you can do anything in like toy ads. This is just like, here's a movie where kids steal government secrets because kids, if they put their mind to it, can take over the fucking world. And I love the way it's presented in these things. The texture and that sort of message. Whether it's good or bad is debatable, but that's something I really liked about this movie.
Adam, you're known to love the betting process here and there. This is my version of Vegas when I chuck a movie like this at Rob. That's just a thrill waiting to see.
It sounds like they're all underdogs, Bill.
And he keeps me in the dark up until the day of record. It is such a thrill.
Wow. I can't tell him anything. Nope. I can't.
I mean, that's why you gamble. That's the juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what are the things I liked about this movie? And I'll say what I talked about it. We've touched on a little bit about getting to go over and use the Israeli Air Force. Rob, that kind of plays into your first point. Like it's got the realism of they knew where to spend some money, so they spent it on the jets, but it's got that gritty look all over it. It's wonderful because that 80s aesthetic can swing the other way really bad, and you get the very, very Z-list movie, and I'm glad this one didn't do that. But my overwhelming love, and I think this is what really hooked me for this movie, is Doug's need to have his own soundtrack, to do his absolute best in the air, because this was us. In 86, I was 13 years old, and we went nowhere without boom boxes and loud stereos. And true fact, this movie is almost a documentary, because if you get the right song on, your car will go faster, regardless of how fast it went before, to the point where
flyers of movies. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this is everything we were and did. And this is when soundtracks ruled back in the day. And this, while not being a musical, like we talked about last week with Electric Dreams, this thing is stitched so well together with all that. And, you know, I've been Doug so many times. I so gravitated, and they're like, turn that off. It's like, I can't drive this 81 Reliant around this corner if I don't have Van Halen's Best of Both Worlds going at full tilt. What are you saying?
Adam, are you right now imagining Bill with a like leg strap tape player and like sunglasses on at the moment? Because I sure as hell am.
This is a time in this movie where were a kid, and I owned a Mustang. I had one. This is what teenagers drove. And if I could have figured out that leg strap Walkman deal to where it projected surround sound, I would have done it in a heartbeat.
I can't imagine any vehicle, Bill, to be in that he wouldn't have total command of the dashboard, cassette player, or otherwise. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna need for the thigh job.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that little thigh job. And I will go one step further, and I will tell you that this is my original soundtrack from '86 on LP.
Oh my God.
Bill, I feel like we could destroy this podcast with how deep we could go into the soundtrack here. I'm gonna resist.
I am too. All I'm gonna say is I'm gonna drop it here. If you think Top Gun is the best aerial soundtrack in a movie, no, it's not. If you haven't listened to it, go find Top Gun.
I'm shaking, Bill.
Bill, there's gonna be a part 2. There's gonna when we have 2 more hours, there will be a part 2 to this podcast.
I'm digging my fingernails into my thighs where a tape player should be.
Not even counting the Basil Polidaris score that is its other soundtrack. I mean,
is that the B-side to that?
This is such a lesser Polidaris, Bill. Lesser Polidaris.
It's the Conan. It's not. But you got to admit, it raises it up.
Do we have to admit that? Look, I'm gonna say you do have to admit that, because I'm not gonna bring you down, Bill, but I do not necessarily. Look, it's your and I'm glad that you like it. How about
no one wants to yuck your ear yum?
No, but that's viewers.
No, here's the thing. I do want to yuck your yum, but I'm not going to.
As much as this movie is a shot across the bow to Rob's every time, that particular point was aimed straight at Adam, because I'm regretting that he's holding it in. I'm regretting this. We must have this conversation offline. Do you guys have
an after dark show that Bill and I can do after this?
No, but that's a great idea. And listeners, if that's something you want, leave it in the old comments section, because we're here for you.
We are. So
now, Adam, what would you say is your supersonic of this movie?
I was delighted at the variety of airplanes in this movie. I thought this would just be an F-16 wank fest, but I mean, I hadn't seen this film since I was a little kid. And when I saw the Belanca Super Decathlon on screen, flown by Jerry Levine's character, Styles from Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Amazing. I have a special relationship with that plane. I flew model airplanes when I was a kid. And one of my first, like, proper non-trainer aircraft that I flew was a Super Decathlon built from a kit, like built from wood.
Whoa.
Covered in monocoat, 4-stroke engine in it. It was great. It was the greatest RC airplane I ever had. Just a great plane. And to see one on screen here was just a delight. I loved it. Special plane to me.
And
That's
you got
amazing.
to use that old glue when you put
yeah.
that thing together. The good glue.
Yeah, that stuff really hits.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the hobby
that stuff
shop
helps a
here
growing boy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They looked at me with a little cockeye when I was asking for it here in Yucca. There.
I got so much of that stuff on my jeans when I built planes. Like, what a fucking idiot. Like, why am I wearing any clothes at all while I'm handling this glue? But like drip, 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 like drip marks of cyanoacrylate glue on my thighs, where my tape player should be.
Yeah.
And like, you can't get that out of fabric.
No, you cannot.
No, that's an uncomfortable state of a different kind.
Yeah.
No coming back.
Well, I don't know how to come back from that, but I do remember, God, putting together RC cars with my dad, and the glue it was game over. But I would never
remember how there probably is, but you remember how there's like 3 speeds to the glue. There's like the slow glue is like controllable, like it won't come rocketing out the tip of the glue thing all over the place. Like that's the stuff you give to a kid. And then there's like the super fast, which is somehow thinner than water. It's like shooting lasers. It is uncontrollable and it goes everywhere. Why were kids permitted to have that?
Yeah, that's the one that you have to, once the end of it's so congealed, you have to take a pin and poke the other end to try and get the rest of the glue out of it.
There is no pin that busts that up. You gotta clip the tip, Bill.
Yeah.
Like frosting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Less delicious though. Bill, where do we go from here?
Well, from here we try to pick something else to balance out our like. It's something that we didn't care too much about, and we'll just do our overall for this one. For our dislike section, I'm calling this one "Dropping the Hades."
Get right up on that mic.
Mm-hmm.
Hades.
Hey. 4-pack Hades is what we call Bill these days.
I'll take my fun where I can get it.
I love it. That's why we do the pod, Bill. That's why
it is.
Red Band Bill for both cigarettes and types of movie trailers.
Like and subscribe, or else.
The actor that would do the SIG comments that we would pull drops from as well. God, I can't remember that guy. Was he in Great Escape? Anyway, and I go back and watch that from time to time. The black and white cigarette commercials with the wartime actors. If it's not them, it's Fred Flintstone. But anyway, sorry. Lee Marvin. That's
Lee Marvin.
Yes. Bill, why don't you tell us your dislike, unfortunately?
Yeah. Oh, this will just be my overall one. So this movie requires a lot of suspension of disbelief. A lot. And to be honest, it's a little more than what's reasonable that you should for any movie. And my tipping point was when the kids have all their unrestricted access to this. And we've talked about this, like they just know where everything is. They know how to do it. And, we as an audience know that we don't know for sure what it would take to steal an F-16, but we know you can't walk into the general's office and just shoot your mouth off like non-soldier Doug's going on there. It just really undercuts it. And we've discussed that before. You can get away with some of the rest of it, but I think it's always been a sticking point for me. When I watch this movie, like I'm excited about the first part, the snake, the whole planning thing's kind of like meh. And then pick up again where the jets take off. So it really just plays into what we've talked about before, but a little bit you can take. But if we had done with this movie what we said and just kind of cut the kids part out or drastically down, let them be in the background. They're there a lot. We could have got away with it. But then also when they go into their ridiculously funded clubhouse on base that's full of like stuff that you would see in Quentin Tarantino's basement. Like, where does this? I've been a kid in the 80s. Where does this shit come from? How is it you've got power and neon signs and a phone booth in your living room? I could never even get my old man to spring for a pinball machine to put anywhere, and we had a giant garage. So I'm looking at these kids going, "Screw you! Why did you not plan all your shit in this clubhouse? You took it to Chappy's dilapidated barn." So movies just got a little bit of a stretch too far, and that's sad.
The dream of the 80s was largely the ways that the kids and teenagers lived and their private areas that they had access to. Like, it's the Billy problem from Gremlins. Like, he has that entire attic, and it's the coolest place in the entire world. Like, how am I living in a bedroom? It's not befitting.
No, it's not. It's not. If you don't have some kind of Ferris Bueller rig set up somewhere in your house, you've failed as a Gen Xer, and I've failed, and I don't like it.
The 80s bedroom is really a thing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, one of the things that frustrated me most as a young boy was that my brother was able to move into the basement of our house after my dad finished the basement and acquired like a pool table from the bar he owned and a broken pinball machine that he had someone come over and fix. So like working in the bar industry, if a pool table gets shot, then no one wants it. They toss it out. If the pinball machine gets shot, they toss it out. But he knows the people who will fix them for $50, right? And so my brother gets to move to the basement where there's also a TV. And I get to like move into his room, his old room.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, the thing he didn't want to move in and smells like a 14-year-old boy? Great.
It's the equivalent of moving to the back of the school bus from the front when you get a little older, isn't it, Rob? It's not really an upgrade.
It's not an upgrade. You get picked on more than you get to feel cool. That's for sure. Well, Bill, a lot of mine fall in line with yours. A lot of suspension of disbelief, but I will say in doing so, there were like two distinct parts of this movie that I started, and it's my own fault. I was trying to multitask and like write some notes and look up some stuff, but like I drifted. Immediately after they hacked the base and got the maps and the codes and stuff, I drifted for about 10 minutes, had to do some rewinding. And then right after they took off in the jets to go save Dad, I drifted, and I think that was due to like a lot of talk and then a fueling scene, and then we actually get to the action of it all. Like, can we just jump to the action, please?
Yeah, that was tough. And I do want to give a quick honorable mention to the beginning right before. A part of the kids thing is that Notcher and Packer at the Snake, they're willing to commit an FAA felony and attempted murder to win a high school race, which they may have killed.
And this Jimmy is not Branson the first time they've run it.
No, they may have killed Jimmy Branson, and that crossed my mind for the first time ever last night watching it going, did they murder that kid?
Very evocative language of him splattered against a canyon wall or something.
And everybody's so nonchalant. Even Chappy's like, that's what happened to the Branson boy. Like, what? No remorse at all.
It was a different time, Bill. It was a different time.
Yeah, it was a month in their time after this movie. So, yeah, a little disbelief.
Well, Adam, anything that dropped Hades for you?
I grew to dislike, like in an action sequence especially, it's like establishing shot, cut to close-ups, cut to action. Like there's a rhythm to these things that when you watch a lot of movies, you get accustomed to. You appreciate the great sequences. You really grow to despise the bad ones. And several times in this film, an aerial action sequence will be popping off. and we will cut from intense faces to exploding airplanes to some other action-packed thing to the text readout that serves as the explanation for all the aerial combat. And I just think that's hard. Like, it is tough to break up something exciting with the dots of the text of its day slowly populating into a screen, full screen, in a movie theater. And this happens more than a dozen times in this film. And I just think it's too bad. Like, one of the knocks on Top Gun is like Goose in the back constantly calling out, like, they're on us, Mav, or they're on at 3 o'clock, or like missiles away. Like, it is so much more exciting to hear someone yell that exposition than to be made to read it in 3 or 4 word increments in the way that we're made to in this movie. And that was difficult to endure. Like, over the long term of this film, that was something I wasn't crazy about.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And it's hard to picture it. I think now we've all got like relatively larger TVs, I'm sure, just because that's the only size that are made these days. But like, imagine seeing this in the theaters and it's just giant computer words and ellipses on the screen. Like, that is difficult.
Did War Games predate this, Bill? Because that was another like big words on screen movie, as I remember. Like, I wonder if people were just kind of used to that in the dawn of the computer era. Maybe this was cool in 86. Like holy shit.
I mean, it was in the zeitgeist, but it was like shorthand for, this is techie and complicated. Well, you're right, Adam. It's show, don't tell. So it's so much more dramatic for Goose to be yelling it out than us to be reading things that aren't really always important, and we're already figuring it out by what's going on, especially when Doug starts talking to himself at the end. He's calling the action. We don't need the readout.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just to answer the question, War Games, yes, 3 years earlier.
I want to give an honorable mention to the senseless use of yellow text over a blue background for the credits of this film. What were they doing?
I love that you say that, because it transitions us perfectly into the next segment. Bill, what are we doing?
This is where we pick out some amusing moments in the movie, and I have titled this one, Like I Told My Wife, You Just Gotta Go With It.
Hey, we've all been there.
Was her response on the way out at the end where she's like, I don't think I like this 80s man movie. I'm like, well, just gotta go with it.
I say this all the time on my own show. Not everything is for everybody.
Nope.
That's the truth. And I will just start. The number one amusing thing for me in this film: yellow text, blue background on the credits.
That was FPO on that blue background, right? Like they had to have a plan for that they just didn't end up doing.
I think so. They're like B-roll of some sort had to have been rolling there.
We watched a clip. I have my high school honor society episode from 91 that my wife and I just watched because I recorded off our VHS tape. It's the same credits. This is local show. Just type it and roll it. It's awful. And why didn't you just rerun the air footage?
Or do that thing that the Rocky films did. You use stills in the background. Mm-hmm. You've got dozens of great stills you could pull.
Or what's wrong with the traditional black with white type?
Speaking
what's
of
wrong
Rocky,
with tradition?
Yeah,
Phil, absolutely.
Things are going crazy these days. But I do want to say, while we have the moment, and this is the perfect duo, that I dropped this little, I heard a little rumor, speaking of Rocky, that there might be a Drago film coming out.
How about that?
Yeah, I heard a rumor.
Right.
But anyway, Bill, are you just going to go with it? What are you going to go with?
So at the beginning of the movie, when Doug's first leaving his house, he's walking down the hallway, talking to his mom, his little sister's in there. I'd never noticed this before. On the wall behind Doug, we've all had the Olin Mills portrait of ourselves as kids, especially from back in the day. It's the same look, same fake bridge, same leaves, same brown frame. But the Masters kids get full cartoon portraits on their wall. It is like terrifying, fair quality, not caricature, but it's like the caricaturist tried to do it straight in colored pencil. It is atrocious. And I'm like, did I miss this? In my youth, was this a thing that I've never seen it before? Nobody else's family had one up there. It shook me to my core to see this particular celebration of the children that I've never seen before from a family. I'm like, my God, Mom, did you commission me? I didn't look close enough to see if it said J.K. Woodward on them, but boy, howdy, they were something to see.
Well, that's
He
the
would have
thing. In
done it right.
1986, Bill, in 1986, your family was either getting their own sterling silverware set or the family was getting colored pencil portraits done. One or the other. That's the only way it worked.
Pretty sure we were getting our first membership to Sights and Sounds after the satellite dish took a dive, but
well, that makes sense too. Well, Adam, what was your amusing moment?
I tried to play this moment back a couple of times to just kind of get the story, the reason for this. So they fly the Elder Masters back. Like they fly the whole team back in what looks like JFK's 707 era Air Force One. And just that detail was hilarious to me. Like it's still attached to a tug. It was clearly dragged out of a museum, like onto the tarmac and then staged. And for whatever reason, the pilot's got his window open and he just won't stop gesturing during the scene. Like the shot is like 3/4 profile of everyone like stepping onto the air stairs. And for some reason, this fucking dipshit on the flight deck is like messing around with stuff. He's like moving his hands. He is a complete distraction. So between the museum P707 and as a director, you have got to direct this guy to stop what he's doing. It drove me nuts. Close your window. Like, here's how you know it's a museum piece. The window was open because it was fucking hot out there.
Yeah.
And like they had no APU going. Like,
God.
That's the reason. But clear the flight deck if you're going to have that guy up there. Like, that just felt insane to me.
That moment
this
right
is
there
one of those things
was what I wanted.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, Adam, because it's one of those things that, like, I noticed. I was like, that's weird. And then went on with the movie. But hearing someone else like remind me, no, that's weird for someone to be doing that and not to be stopped. It's just perfect. And that's why we do this. This is wonderful. Oh my God. Bill.
That was a chef's kiss moment. That's why I've been waiting on this for so long. It was great to have an Adam moment on our own show.
I mean, It was great to crack open the internet plane movie database because I tried to figure out what the deal was with that 707. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What? Like, of all the planes, it just seemed incongruent. I couldn't find any detail about that plane specifically, though.
Well, we're going to find out at EagleCon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's coming up.
EagleCon hitting Fresno very soon.
Well, Bill, there's one final thing we like to do on the podcast, and would you like to remind Adam what that is, and our audience, for that matter?
We sure do. This is the point where we rate the movie, and the way we do it is we call the section 5 Nights for $1. The idea is, back in the day, you would have walked into your local mom and pop video store, and somewhere in the store, front or back, might be a shelf or rack, and it might say something like 5 Nights for $1. It'd be a movie that you could rent for $1. You could keep it for one night, up to 5 nights, up to you. And the way we do it is we don't compare the movie we just watched to anything else in the series. No sequels, no prequels, no nothing. This is a standalone experience. So you walked in to the back of your local video store. You've pushed past the filthy copies of Blue Thunder and the busted up other dirty dozen ones with the cigarette ads on the back. And you found your copy of Iron Eagle and it's laying there. So you've gone up, you put your buck down, you've walked home, you've watched it. Now, here's the question. How many of your 5 nights are you going to keep Iron Eagle? So would you like to go first, Robs?
Yeah, I think it would probably be best for me to go first. I'm keeping this for 2 nights. Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I dislike it. Although, wasn't my favorite Bill movie to be thrust upon me. But there's so many elements to this film that I think are not just a product of the time in a good and bad way, but just like a I'm glad it exists, right? It came before Top Gun, and then we see what a movie like this can be done with a little bit bigger budget, a little bit more A-list actor, maybe a few more trips around the writer's room or whatever it needs to happen. And it shows you that like films don't have to be perfect to still be enjoyable. Like I'm not a plane guy, but I have a feeling if I was, that would polish a lot of the things that I disliked about the movie. And to be able to watch a story being told, like Adam says, with absolutely no sex, but to be like this, like plain run and gun army kids, like all those kids are like in the age where you would rather probably be dating and making out somewhere than rescuing your father from unnamed terrorist country, right? But they make it work. They have a little Ocean's 11 type moment in it that I loved. It just kind of like needs to be refueled a few times. And I think in doing so, I needed to be refueled a few times. So I did have to watch this in a couple of different sittings. And for that, it gets a couple of different nights for me. Now, one night isn't the best and 5 nights isn't the best. But I think in doing so, I would take this back and go, okay, what's another 1986 movie I could compare this to in the action genre and see if I keep it for the another 5 nights. So that's where I land with this one.
That's
how about you, Bill? We'll have Adam go last. How about
yes. So for me, I'm going to call this, it's a 4-night movie, but here's how this works. So you get the full viewing on the first night. I'm going to keep it for 3 more nights. I'm probably going to get to watch it one more time. I'm going to want to watch it one more time. And then when I take it back to the video store and turn it in, I'm going to do that. But as I return for multiple visits, I'm going to keep an eye on that rack of previewed for sale tapes.
Eyes on the rack, Bill.
So when Iron Eagle makes its way over to that $6.99 pile, I will buy it somewhere down the road. It's a buyable movie. And then also, if it takes until like around 1989, I will be tricked into watching Firebirds, and I'll be so pissed that I'll be happily go back and I'll rewatch Iron Eagle at that point. So it's right in my wheelhouse. It's an 80s power movie with jets and explosions and rock and roll. It's just straight up fun. And I like the actors' performances are good, even if the story's not all that great. They're fun to watch on screen. So definitely a 4-night with caveat plus eyes on the prize for later purchase.
Excellent. Adam, how about you?
Solidarity with my used VHS bin buying brother right there. Can you tell me whether like the nights correspond with goodness? Like 5 nights means best score, 1 night means worst? Is there any sense to this?
No,
there's no real
what
correlation.
It means to you. Like you could like a movie so much that you are only watching it one night so that you can go get the sequel the second night. It's all how you want to do it.
Back when I was renting VHS films, I would often like get the cheapies, but return them right away. I'm watching them that first night and I'm going back for more the second night. So contextually, this is difficult for me to review in that way. I had a real problem with this movie in that the stakes felt totally absent. But that's why it's so much fun to watch. Like, I think at any point the stakes could have been the nerdy kid had a missile dropped on his leg and it's broken, while trying to load up an F-16, or like the real threat of war against the fictional state of Bilya, or any number of other things. Like people could have been hurt and killed just getting prepared for this mission, let alone like the geopolitical stakes that were just only passively whispered in this film. Like, I really feel like if you even had one instance of near-death experience, it could have really like it could have injected this film with something that I think it desperately needed. But as it is, like, it's a total throw on the TV and chill type of film. Like, if you don't want to get your heart rate up, if you have a heart condition of any kind, this is probably great. This is probably a great old folks home movie. I think that's just what I was craving. Like, it was fun and silly in all the ways you want a fun and silly 1986 film to be. I mean, give me one moment of stakes and one excellent song. And I know this is going to hurt you, Bill, but like one Cheap Trick song would have changed this movie completely. And I feel like this is just a lot of songs are fine in this movie, but there's no centerpiece Loggins moments. There's no like the theme of the movie. I know this movie had a theme song, but like I wish it was better.
Totally fair.
Couldn't agree more. But I get why the feelings for both of this, and I love that that's why we come to talk about this. But Adam, before we wrap up, if for whatever reason we have listeners that are not FODs, would you like to tell people where they can find your podcasts?
You can find my Star Trek podcasts, The Greatest Generation and Greatest Trek, wherever you get podcasts. One of them is about catalog Star Trek programming. One of them is about new streaming Star Trek. Each show comes out once a week, and we've been making that show for now 8 years. It's kind of a miracle. Rob, you were a producer for a time on the on Greatest Trek when it was called Greatest Discovery back in the day. You're one of the OGs in this whole thing. And yeah, that's what we've been working with. We're making a show with Adam Ragusea now called Wholesome.
Yes.
It is totally different from the Star Trek programming, and it's just about telling your friends about things that you like in your life. It is just a 45-minute lozenge of good times that we're just trying to sprinkle in.
Well, I know Bill and I are thrilled to have you on the pod. Ragusea has been on in the past. We've had a plenty of guests, but it's nice to have someone that we call a direct and utter friend to talk movies with. And so we really, really appreciate it. Bill, thank you for setting this up, because couldn't do it without you. Couldn't do half of these episodes without you. I'll tell you that. You know what? I couldn't do all of the episodes without you, Bill. How about that?
It is fun to talk about movies with such enthusiastic co-hosts like you guys.
It is.
You really bring out the joy in this exercise. So
that was
great job by you.
Whole goal was just to have some fun, and it's great you were here, Adam. This is definitely it's my favorite guest interview because I love you, man, and it's great to get to hang with you anytime.
Absolutely. Goes right back at you guys.
All
Big
right.
fun.
Well,
thank you.
Awesome.
This episode will be outside of the Patreon paywall, folks. So if you want to hear everything else that we've done, please head to patreon.com/Bill and
I don't
Robs.
get paid for this? What?
And Bill and Robs, and we will see you next time on Bill and Robs, An Excellent Adventure.